Hey, what is up guys? I'm Ironiq, and in this video, I will be surviving 100 days in hardcore Minecraft in the new 1.20 update. This update adds a lot of new stuff to the game, such as armor trims, camels, a new biome, new wood types, and much more. Of course, I have a few main goals I want to accomplish. First, I want to build an amazing looking base with one of the new wood types. Second, I want to get a full set of trimmed armor. Third, I want to find a camel, because I mean, obviously, you gotta find a camel. And last but not least, I want to fight the Ender Dragon. So we have a lot to do, so let's get right into the video. Day 1 began by me spawning in. I then gathered some wood, made myself a wooden pickaxe, collected some cobble, made myself some more stone tools, and began looking for a place to build, specifically a cherry blossom biome, which I ended up finding pretty quickly, right next to a village, which I ended up stealing the hay bales from. The village also had a blacksmith, which had some good things in it, and another chest had a ton of bread in it. Nearby, I collected my first iron and some coal and made my first iron pickaxe. I then slaughtered some cows and then stole one of the villagers' bed and went to sleep. Day 2 began by me slaughtering some cows, collecting some coal. I then began running around trying to find a place to build in the cherry blossom biome, which, may I add, is a very cool looking biome, and I'm very glad they added this. I mean, it's just so cute and pretty. While looking, I decided to collect some wood, which this part is probably the only downside of this biome. These trees are very annoying to cut down, but eventually I found the place I was going to build my base, which thankfully was pretty dang close to the village. So that'll be pretty helpful. And I began clearing the area. I then went to sleep. Day 3 began by me continuing to cut down some trees, then made myself a bunch of chests and went mining, mostly to collect lots of iron. And in the process, I almost died to a bunch of skeletons. So I sat in a corner and regenerated my health like a little wussy. I then went back to collecting lots of ore, mostly lots and lots of iron. But of course, the most important ore, coal, because that is literally impossible to get. At least that's what it seems like. I then watched a glowing squid kill itself, and if I was a glowing squid, I probably would have done the same thing. We could have had a freaking ice lodger. Day 4, I began smelting all the iron I had collected, and with it, I began making myself full iron armor and a full set of iron tools. And yet again, in the process of mining, I almost died. This time, I literally had 1 heart. So yet again, I sat in a corner like a wussy and healed, because that one was way too close. I went back to mining and found a mine shaft. And in that mine shaft, I found my first diamonds and some more diamonds. And some more diamonds. Day 5, I continued strip mining and found even more diamonds for a total of 22. So I'd say that's pretty good on day 5. And for the rest of the day, I continued mining, collecting lots of deep slate. That's another reason why I was strip mining, by the way. Day 6, I continued strip mining and immediately found more diamonds, but I was unlucky the rest of the day and didn't find much. Day 7, I finally began heading back up to the surface. And after lots of running and digging straight up, I eventually made it to the surface. I then began smelting all the ores I collected, made a bunch of my deep slate into deep slate bricks, and began making the staircase up to the base. I did some counting and went back to making the beautiful little staircase. Day 9 was a rainy one, but I continued building up the stairs. I also began marking out a tower and another tower, did some contemplating, and then went back to building the stairs. And by the end of the day, it was getting there. Day 10, I continued building up the staircase. After lots and lots of building, the staircase was still not done at the end of the day. Day 11, I went back to building the staircase, of course. And yet again, after lots of building, a witch fight, and even more building, the staircase was finally done. Well, kind of. It was a little plain, so I began adding some, accents around the place. But almost done. Day 12, I continued adding those accents. Lots of those accents. And finally, they were all done, and it was looking pretty dang cool. I then began marking out the towers and building them up, which was taking a lot of deep slate. Like, a lot of deep slate. And on day 13, I continued doing the same thing, using a lot of deep slate. But hey, it was looking pretty good. But I did run out of wood, so I had to go collect a bunch. And I then went back to building up the towers and using a ton of deep slate. Day 14, I continued building up the towers and marking out the rest of the castle. Oh, did I mention I was gonna build a castle? I mean, that is what I literally build every time. Anyways, day 15, I continued building, mostly by building the floor of the base. But I ran out of wood, so I had to go collect a bunch, and then I continued building up the floor. Day 16, I continued working on the floor of the base, using up a lot of wood. Day 17, I cooked a bunch of steak, and that's literally all I did. Day 18, I made a fletching table and began trying to get some good trades, but they were not having it. Day 19, I continued trying to get some good trades, mostly to get a trade for coal, but I was unlucky, so I just decided to go cut some trees down. Day 20, a creeper decided to blow up all my chests. So, that was fun, but it did make me realize I needed a bunch of chests, so I went out and collected a bunch of oak wood. Day 21, I traded a bunch of sticks for a bunch of emeralds, cut down some trees, planted a bunch of oak saplings, and made some more chests. Day 22, I began building the floor of the castle, using up a bunch of wood. I began clearing out the area and then using a bunch more wood. And I'm telling you, this was taking a lot of cherry wood. Day 23, I went strip mining to collect a lot more deep slate. And on day 24, I continued to do the exact same thing, collecting lots of deep slate to build my castle. Day 25, I arrived back up to the surface and went back to building up the towers of the castle. Day 26, I collected some more cherry wood and then went back to building up the towers using lots of deep slate. Like a lot of deep slate. I know I already said this, but this is taking a lot of it. Day 27 yet again began by me collecting some more wood. I then began running around trying to find a little cave with some coal because I really needed some coal. Day 28, I made myself a bucket, collected some water, made myself a diamond pickaxe, and went down in the mines and began collecting a bunch of obsidian. Day 29, I set out on a mission to collect a bunch of sugarcane, boating around everywhere just to collect some more sugarcane because for some reason I was too lazy to make a little farm. Day 30, I continued running around collecting lots of sugarcane. I also made some friends with 2 dolphins. Day 31, I arrived home and made myself a bunch of paper to make into some books, but I didn't have enough leather, so I began running around killing a bunch of cows. Day 32, I continued collecting some sugarcane and killing more cows for some more leather. Day 33, I arrived home, made a bunch of paper, made a bunch of books, cut down a ton of oak trees, and with that all, I made a bunch of bookshelves, enough to get a level 30 enchant. Day 34, I made myself an enchant table, placed all the bookshelves around it, began making a nether portal, hopped in the nether portal, got return of sender because I'm a beast, and then began collecting lots and lots of quartz for levels. Day 35, I made a full set of diamond armor and began enchanting. When I didn't have enough levels, I found out I could get a fortune 3 pick, but since I didn't have the levels, I had to go back in the nether and collect a bunch of quartz, and when I did have the levels, I got the fortune 3 pickaxe. Day 36, I began building the walls of the castle using a bunch of blackstone. So much blackstone I had to go back to mining, which while mining I ended up finding back-to-back skeleton spawners, so I could definitely make an OP XP farm out of this in the future. Day 37, I continued strip mining, finding diamonds and even more diamonds with my fortune 3 pick, so that's actually a lot of diamonds. Day 38, I was done strip mining and headed back up to the surface. And by the end of the day, I made it back to the castle. Day 39, I made myself a full set of diamond tools. I then went into the nether to collect lots and lots of quartz for lots and lots of levels. Day 40, I began enchanting all of my diamond armor. I then began collecting a lot of wood and went back to building the towers. And day 41, I began adding some accents around the tower. And I'd say it was looking pretty decent. Day 42, I began working on the walls of the castle, then went back to adding detail on the towers. Lots of detail. Guess what? On day 43, I continued adding detail to the tower. I also began working on the roof, and by the end of the day, I finished one of the towers. Yes, just one of them. Oh, this is gonna take a while. Day 44, I continued using a ton of deep slate, building up the walls of the base. Day 45, I continued doing the exact same thing. I also cut down a ton of trees, and while building up the towers, I almost died. Have heart. Yeah, that was pretty close. Day 46 was a tower detail day. I added lots and lots of detail. And by day 47, it was looking pretty good. I then went back to building up the walls using a ton of deep slate. Day 48, I spent the entire day collecting a bunch of cherry wood. Did I say how annoying these are to cut down? And on day 49, I used all that cherry wood to add some details around the wall. And on day 50, I took a step back and yeah, I mean, it looks good. But, yeah, I built a princess castle. I built a princess castle. It looks good, though. Day 51, I began building the roof of the other tower. And by the end of the day, it was looking good. Day 52, I spent the entire day collecting lots of cherry wood. Lots of it. Day 53, I continued adding lots of details to the tower. Day 54, I worked on another tower roof. And by the end of the day, it was all done. Day 55 was another day where I just continued adding lots and lots of detail. Day 56, I began building another roof, and by the end of the day, the 2 front tower roofs were done. Day 57, I began working on the part in between the first 2 towers, and I'd say it was looking pretty good. Day 58, I spent the entire day running around planting saplings, because I cut so many down that there was like basically none left. Day 59, I hopped in the nether to strip mine to collect some ancient debris, and eventually I finally found some. I also collected some quartz as well. Day 60, I began running back to the nether portal, and eventually I found it. I then turned all the quartz I collected into blocks, and then enchanted some of my tools, which I actually got a diamond 3 looting sword, so that's pretty clutch. Day 61, I went back in the nether to collect lots and lots of quartz for even more levels. Day 62, while still in the nether, I found a nether fortress. So I began collecting as many blaze rods as I could. I then continued running around the nether fortress, looting chests, and I ended up finding my first smithing template. So that's pretty cool. Day 63, I began heading back home, collecting some quartz on the way, and eventually I made it back to the portal. Day 64, I arrived home and there was a horse just kind of chilling at my base, so I tamed it and put some gold armor on it. I then trapped it in one of the towers to live the rest of its life there, and then I did some more enchanting. Day 65, I went back in the nether, this time to find a warped forest, which I quickly found and got the achievement. I then began killing a ton of endermen with my looting 3 diamond sword. Once I had enough, I headed back to the nether portal. Day 66, I took a bunch of the ender pearls I collected and some blaze rods and made some Eye of Enders. I then upgraded my diamond chest plate and it looked pretty cool. I then went back into the nether and began trading with a piglin. Day 67, I made myself a bow and then yet again went back in the nether, this time to collect lots of gold, to trade with some piglins, to get some arrows. Day 68, I enchanted my bow, then threw my first Eye of Ender and began running in the direction it went. And I ran a lot. I ran through a jungle on the way, so I collected some cocoa beans. And after a whole day of running, I arrived at a village. And the village had a camel in it. So that's pretty cool. Day 69, my favorite day in Minecraft. I began digging down and I found the stronghold. And I very quickly found the portal, but I didn't have enough Eyes of Ender. So on day 70, I made myself a nether portal, went into the nether, and began traveling back to the base. And eventually I found my portal, made some more Eye of Enders, and then began running back to the stronghold. I eventually arrived back at the village and began digging down to the stronghold. I made it to the portal and put the last 2 Eyes of Enders in, and it now was time to take on the Ender Dragon. I began taking out the towers first, of course, one by one. I then began smacking the dragon in its head, doing a lot of damage. And eventually, the Ender Dragon was defeated. I began collecting all the XP. I was then standing next to the portal and an Enderman hit me into it, which is unfortunate because I wanted the dragon egg, so I'm gonna have to go all the way back to the portal again. But luckily for me, I slept at the village, so I was pretty close to the portal. I then went back into the end and got myself the dragon egg. I then collected a bunch of blocks and went in to find an end city, which I quickly found, but this one didn't have an end boat. So I began building across the void, which is very scary. Day 73, I found another end city, and this one had a boat. So I looted as much as the end city as I could, finding some good stuff. I then ender pearled to the end boat and got myself an elytra. Day 74, I hopped in the portal and began heading home. And on the way, I gathered some bamboo, and by the end of the day, I arrived home. Day 75, I disenchanted like all of my armor and began enchanting it all again for some better enchantments. I then put Unbreaking 3 on my elytra, and it was looking good. I also didn't know that your cape that you wear turns into your elytra, but that's pretty cool. Day 76, I collected some coal, even more coal, and even more coal. Found myself a zombie spawner, and then collected even more coal. Day 77, I went back to strip mining for even more deep slate. And while doing so, I found some diamonds, and more diamonds. Day 78, I continued strip mining for the entire day, and by the end of the day, I arrived back at base. Day 79, I made a tiny little sugarcane farm, and then went back to building the base. And to help with that, I used a bunch of the bamboo I collected to make some scaffolding. Day 80, I continued building the base, and it was looking pretty good. At least the entrance was. Still a princess castle though. Day 81, I continued working on the base using lots of deep slate on a tower. And by the end of the day, I was working on a roof. Day 82, I continued working on that roof, finishing it, and it was looking good. So it was now time to add more detail. Day 83, I spent the entire day adding more detail. Day 84, I worked on another tower roof, and by the end of the day, it was all done. Day 85, I yet again spent the entire day adding more and more detail. Day 86, I took a break from building and went into the nether to find a nether fortress in order to get 3 wither skeleton heads to fight the wither. Day 87, I found a nether fortress and I began killing my first wither skeleton, which I got a head from. What is that luck? And soon after, I got another one. Thank God for looting 3. And on day 88, I got the final one. So I began heading back to base. And by the end of the day, I arrived at the portal. Day 89, I went into the mines and began building the wither. I began killing it with my sword, and lots of swings later, the wither was dead. And now I got another star. Day 90, I turned all my iron into iron blocks and began building a pyramid for the beacon. And of course, I built the beacon and placed it on the pyramid, but I didn't have enough iron to, do anything yet. And since I didn't have enough iron, on day 91, I went into the mines to collect a lot of iron. And thank goodness, Fortune 3 works with iron now. Day 92, I was still in the mines collecting lots of iron. And on day 93, after doing a little bit of strip mining, I arrived back at the base. Day 94, I made a bunch of furnaces and threw all of the iron in them. I then began marking out the rest of the castle. Day 95, I turned all my iron yet again into iron blocks and added them to the beacon pyramid, which was enough to have a stage 1 beacon. Day 96, I continued marking out the rest of the castle, and on day 97, I began clearing out a bunch of the mountain, and I did this for the entire day. Day 98 was much of the same as I continued just mining the mountain away, and it was taking forever, but it was getting there. Day 99, I continued slaving away, but eventually I finished it off and began using a lot of wood for the floor. And just like that, it was now day 100. So I threw on my elytra and began flying around the base. And I'd say the base ended up looking pretty cool. I mean, this wood definitely makes it look like a princess castle, but we can look past that. I think I did a pretty decent job with the design, but obviously it's not finished. Not even close. But that's why we are going to be doing 200 days. But first, let me know how you guys think I did and what you guys want to see me do in 200 days. I hope you guys did enjoy. And overall, the 1.20 update is a pretty good one, in my opinion. But we still have a ton of stuff to explore in the 1.20 update. So make sure to stay tuned for the next video. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.